We got a bunch of people here today, excited to hear about some of the fun stuff we've been building. I'm going to kind of start the intro process, get the ball rolling so that we've got plenty of time for screen sharing and questions and all that stuff. You got a quick Q&A. Chat is disabled, but you can hear you. All right, well, let's see if I can fix the chat disablement while we go here. But super excited to chat about this. So we've been working on this integration. It feels like a long time, but it's probably only been about 3 months or so. And it's been really exciting to build. Like this is the first deep integration that we've ever done inside of InvestorFuse. So we integrate with a bunch of little stuff out there, and it's all kind of like looking at what public way do they allow people to send data in or out, and then we kind of build an integration that way. This is the first one we've ever done that lets us really think about, hey, what crazy ideas can we come up? What's the best experience for a customer? What's the best way for a real estate investor to communicate with a seller, and then make sure that we build it that way. So we've built it. We've had a beta group go through to test it, love it. We've changed some things, and now it is available now today for everybody to use. But it's going to be super exciting to have a bunch of people start to experience the awesomeness of smartphone and InvestorFuse together. All right, I don't know where the chat and why it's disabled. I've never had chat disabled on a webinar before. Is it?
Can't see anything.
There we go. Attendees can chat with everyone. Let's go with that. See if it works now. Somebody type in the chat. I feel like the last time since I did a webinar, Zoom was like, let's change all the settings. Yay, there we go. All right. Fantastic. I'm glad you all can communicate with us now. We're not just speaking to a sounding board. All right, let's get into it. Cool. So Jordan and I know each other from a long time ago. We were both some of the earliest Podio developers. I think he beat me by a lot because he was originally based in Europe, right? So you were there.
Well, I've been based in Europe for 24 years.
Yeah. Okay. So 24 years. So I was one of the first 10 Podio developing companies in the United States, but they already had a big presence in Europe. So Jordan beat me by a bit. So we're like old Podio people, and we'd be in these Podio groups and chatting about Podio and stuff. And one of the things that I always noticed about Jordan was that he always was thinking outside of the box for Podio. Everybody else was like, how can we use the coolest Globy flow to push data around? And Jordan was like, well, what else can we do with it? What fun things can we build outside of Podio that integrate into it? And so smartphone came along, as well as many other things that you did, which were all extraordinary. But smartphone really was something nobody had seen before, just a great phone solution for Podio. And how long have you guys been building smartphone now?
So smartphone went live to the public 5 years ago last Sunday.
Wow, 5 years last Sunday.
Congrats.
That's awesome.
5 years ago last Sunday. Funny enough, we were just in Copenhagen with the Citrix Podio team last week, which is basically 5 years to the day when we were in Copenhagen with the Citrix team launching smartphone. Oh, so awesome. we managed to come back full circle.
That's incredible. And so now, I mean, that you guys have built this incredible solution, and I know people that have been using smartphone on Podio since like 4 or 5 years. It's been getting better and better, more and more features, an incredible VoIP solution. But now you're expanding beyond the realms of just Podio. And here we are to kind of really talk about InvestorFuse and smartphone, and giving our users the best phone solution that was already out there, but now inside of InvestorFuse for them to use and their team to use. So super excited to have you on here. But yeah, I would love for you to kind of really go in and start giving some background on smartphone. I know a lot of people here that are joining have heard of smartphone, but maybe haven't used it. just because they left Podio following us, and therefore there's that kind
Now
of
they
time
can come
period.
back.
But now they can kind of come back and enjoy it. So yeah, why don't you kind of walk through smartphone a little bit, and then we'll kind of dive into the integration and how it all works for our customers.
Absolutely, yeah. What I'll do, I'll give a little bit of a background on where smartphone is currently and where we're continuing to go. I do want to start off by saying, one of the great things, as John said, we've been working to this for a few months now, and that's one of the key things about this is that one of the decisions we made, and I'm pretty sure you guys probably made this decision or a similar decision when you chose to leave to create your own environment, right? To be a master of your own domain and not reliant on nonsense that can happen with Podio right now. Which I'll be honest, I have my moments, but the key is, it's the integration, the deep integration that matters to smartphone. And we're not interested, and we've never been interested in building light touch Zapier based integrations that give you a little bit of passing data. That doesn't really give you an integrated experience that lets you be super productive. It gives you an ability to sort of use two systems, but it doesn't let you really bring them together. And we've always kind of stuck to our guns about deep integration is what matters to us, because we know it's going to give customers the best experience. And so when we started talking, and John was immediately on the same page of like, if we're going to do this, it's not smartphone that kind of connects to InvestorFuse. This is smartphone for InvestorFuse. This is not just okay, we can now look that way. We've actually, working with John's team, we've built smartphone to work specifically with the InvestorFuse platform, and are continuing to build with the team at InvestorFuse better links. And as we expand functionality together, we've already got new functionality planned for next week around Smart Dialer and InvestorFuse. So that's a key part of, I think, what makes smartphone special, InvestorFuse special, and the two the two systems together even more special, is the fact that we can work so closely together to make the experience seamless. So that's, I think that's a critical part of our early conversations, John, and I think we've continued them through.
Yeah, and we'll continue them through. That's the exciting part, right? It's not like the journey's over and we're here at the finish line. It's like this is mile one, people, mile one. Many more miles to come. This is the
new start line. This is the finish line turns into a new start line.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to dive into smartphone. I'm going to share my screen and dive into smartphone a little, just to give you guys the sort of the basics of the platform. But one of the key things. Let me just get it up here on my screen. Share screen. I think you should see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the reasons that we were so excited about our initial talking to John and getting involved with InvestorFuse is over the last 5 years we've really developed a deep understanding of the real estate investor market, right? So we work with a large amount of real estate investors in our platform. We talk to them every day, and we get to know what matters to them, how they, what they need out of a phone system, what they're not getting, what they want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So because real estate is one of our key sectors, we have been building features for the last 5 years that real estate investors need, and that our roadmap is determined in part by the different sectors we work with, one of which is real estate investors. So when you're talking about getting a smartphone, and integrating your InvestorFuse account, you're getting both a very, very specific RAI CRM and a very, very specific set of phone functionalities that are meant for the sector. It's not generic. It is very, very specific. Part of that is also just how we've chosen to build things together, right? So over the last however many years I've been working with real estate investors, and this predates smartphone, I have seen people suffer from the multi-system problem, right? I'm going to send some text from this one. I'm going to have my leads over here. I'm going to have calls here. I can send text here, but I can't get calls back on it. I can, all those sort of the Lego effect of trying to bolt together different functionalities. And that leads to frustration, inefficiency. It means you've got to do a lot of manual efforts, or you're just simply not getting that seamless experience that's going to let you close more deals and work as efficiently as possible. And so aside from the deep integration, another part of our kind of the smartphone philosophy is really being able to bring the core elements of what you need into one place. And that means that, your texting and voicemails, your inbound and outbound calls, your numbers, your users, the flows that you use to determine how inbound calls and texts work, and our power dialer are all in one platform. So you're not having to go, well, I've got these leads, great, and I can do some bits here. Now I want to power dial a follow-up list. I got to take them out. I got to put them over into this system. I got to do them, and then I got to manually bring the results back, right? That is not an efficient way of doing things. And so the smartphone ecosystem handles all of those things together. And we're continuing, in fact, to bring in more and more functionality that real estate investors need directly into the system. So I think that's another like really key part of this. Essentially, if you're going to kind of give a 30-second of what smartphone really is, think of everything you do with the phone, and smartphone does it. Like we're pretty much an all-inclusive cloud phone system. You do not need a CallRail account or your own whatever Twilio account or to get Ring Central. You don't need an account. You don't need to buy tracking numbers somewhere and then forward them around. Smartphone is an all-in-one inclusive platform that happens to completely connect to your CRM with InvestorFuse. And that on top of not only the all-in-one elements there, we also have very, very, very strong iOS and Android apps, which takes all that great functionality, puts it in your hands, and makes sure that you can do that on the road. So that means that because our database comes from your InvestorFuse CRM, one of your sellers calls in, it pops up on the app on your mobile. You see who it is. You see what tracking number they're using to call you on. The call you answer is recorded immediately in InvestorFuse. The notes you take on your app are recorded immediately in InvestorFuse. The disposition of the calls, immediate there. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to think anything. It's all there, whether you're sitting in front of the computer like I am right now, or whether you're on the road or sitting on a beach somewhere where I will be in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks' time. So regardless of where you are, anything you do inside the smartphone system is going to be there in InvestorFuse immediately. And that's another, that's a kind of a key part. Now, one thing I get asked a lot is, I don't necessarily want, maybe I've got a set of VAs I'm using who I want them to be able to power dial, but I don't want them to be inside of my CRM seeing anything. I don't want them inside that ecosystem, right? I just want them power dialing a list that I give them. And that's, again, something that smartphone gives you that flexibility on. You can either be bringing in, users inside a smartphone from your InvestorFuse platform, or you can create just smartphone users who only have access to the information that you give them here. So you want to set a VApp, assign them to a smart dialer campaign, and simply have them click play to start dialing. You can do that in smartphone, and they never have to have any other reach into any of your systems, which I think is a fantastic opportunity. The other thing is, it's really, really easy to use, right? It is not you would hope a phone system is pretty easy to use. Well, smartphone's pretty easy to use, but it's also incredibly powerful. You have the ability to tell the system exactly what you want it to do when someone calls or texts you, right? Getting that workflow to be able to say, hey, man, Monday to Friday from 9 till 5, I want you to do this when they call. But Saturday and Sunday and out of hours, I want you to go straight to our answering service, right? I don't want to miss a call. I want to go straight there. Those are all easy functionalities you have inside a smartphone. And for those of you who may be using VAs or maybe having, starting to expand your team more, one of the other great things inside a smartphone is call monitoring. Now, I don't have anybody connected, I don't think, to my system right now. But essentially, you have the ability with Smartphone Pro. We've got Smartphone Standard and Smartphone Pro are our two subscription levels. With Smartphone Pro, you've got features like call monitoring, where whether you're using the power dialer or just transactional click to calls, you will be able to listen in, see every call that's live in your system, listen into it live as they're doing it. You can whisper to the agent where the other party can't.
Wait, what? You can whisper to an agent?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Have you
man, I
not
didn't
used
even
that
know
yet?
that. No, that is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So you can. We see this all the time with people who want to train up new agents or quality check new agents. So you can be listening into their call. You can choose to then whisper where the agent will hear you, but the other party won't.
That's
And
incredible.
then you can choose to barge. And barging is when you insert yourself into the call, and both parties hear you.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that we see people use a tremendous amount, both for training and for quality checks. Making sure people are doing it properly. Making sure that people are acting and speaking the way you want them to do. 100%. And the other feature I just wanted to kind of mention, and I'll just quickly go back to my desktop here and load it up. So one of the other features I just wanted to mention is with Smartphone Pro, another feature we see people really liking where they have VAs potentially is you have what's called a warm transfer slash a multi-call, a call handoff. So what that means is the use case that I most often see it is you've got a VA, a couple VAs who are power dialing a list, right? And they're dialing as much as they can, getting through as much as they can. They get someone on the phone and they're a good lead, right? They're a strong lead. There's someone who actually, these guys are qualified. Now, you can just say, great, let me take your I'll get Jim to call you back, right? But that brings in an element of risk, right? You got a fish on the line. You get that fish in the boat. You don't kind of jiggle it around for 2 days and hope that next time you pull it's going to be there, right? You want to go. So what we see a lot of times using the pro functionality of warm call transfers is you can be on a call. The agent can be on a call. They can see like, fantastic. Let me just get John in. Let me get my manager John in, and he can talk to you about this in more detail. You can then put the person who you've been speaking to, the lead, on hold. You can dial John in. If he doesn't answer, you can dial Tim in or anybody else in your office you need to. They can get someone in. They can then do a little explanation. Hey, I've got this guy on the line. He's got a house. He's got this. He's got this. He's got this property to sell. This is what he's got. And here's the problems. Give him a little brief. Then unmute. Put the other guy back from hold. Join the two together, and then the agent can leave and start power dialing again. And your John and the prospect will continue that call, all still being recorded in smartphone. So the agent has the ability, rather than saying, I'll get John to call you back, when's a good time? They can say, let me get John on the phone right now. They can then leave and start being productive dialing again, and John can close that deal.
That's awesome.
So those are what I would say, hugely important features and elements of smartphone that the real estate market I know loves, and that are going to be perfectly twinned with InvestorFuse.
Absolutely. I didn't even realize about the listening in and barging and whispering. That's an amazing feature for training people. I mean, I've had many conversations with our customers and walking through their training, process, because that's a big part of, a CRM is when you bring somebody on, you got to train them. But also we talk about call training and it's a morning meeting, right? And I bring up the call recordings, but to do that in the moment and give them that live feedback is incredible. I don't know of any other system that lets you do something like that. So that's really neat. And yeah, live warm transferring, especially in a market like we're all facing right now, and the competition from a lot of people in the market, you know, speed to lead, and then keeping that lead on the phone is incredibly important. So I love those.
I'm already envisioning some data of how much better you're able to convert doing warm transfers versus, hey, I'll have them follow up. I'll have our acquisition manager follow up the next day. So did not know that that was live. That's absolutely amazing. Didn't know the whisper feature either. That's like if you're out on a date, but you have a headset with somebody in your ear that not only can they be at your ear, but then you can also have them pull up a seat at the table with you and join the conversation. So all the functionality is amazing. Plus just, I know a lot of people on the call and also that are listening, just the ability to condense or consolidate their cold calling outreach tool with their in-house integrated phone solution. Just all this stuff is amazing, and we've been super pumped about it as stuff has been being built out. So this is amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Sweet. Well, should we show people the integration what it looks like?
I'll let you guys drive the stick on the InvestorFuse side, if that's all right.
Yeah. All right. So I think, you know, I'm going to walk through the integration, and we're going to kind of start simple, and we'll go all the way up to complex. And then we'll kind of chat a little bit more about, you know, what's next. And it definitely, if you have any questions from what Jordan just said, what I'm about to say, put them in the QA box so that we can keep kind of record of those, and we'll either answer them right now or answer them at the end, kind of depending upon how relevant they are. But any questions you have about our product, their product, how they work together, just post it in there, and we will definitely answer that as we keep going here. So, you know, one of the cool things that I loved about this integration when we started to get going was the Chrome extension. So, I mean, our history with calling solutions is, like I said at the very beginning, we attempt to integrate with everybody as possible. And that means, you know, the ability to push in basically activity and communication logs. But it's not ideal. It's not the best solution possible for how you communicate with sellers. And we've attempted to build something with CallRail, and we have what we call a click-to-call extension with CallRail. But that's really just our development team saying, hey, we're going to look at our HTML on their website and on our website, and then try to match it to theirs. And then it breaks all the time. As soon as like they move a box to the other side of the page, the whole thing's broken. So the Chrome extension that the smartphone team have built is, I mean, ridiculous. I think it's the most complex in a good way, meaning like fully featured Chrome extension I've ever seen. Because I don't have smartphone open anywhere on my computer right now. There's not like a desktop application download. I don't have like a separate Chrome window somewhere else you guys can't see signed in. I am logged into smartphone through their Chrome extension. And so I have the ability to open it up here, and I can dial, I can make a call, I can look at my recent calls, I can see my entire inbox here, and even my settings are all available from the Chrome extension. So it's so easy for your staff to use. They just have to sign into smartphone, download the Chrome extension, log in, and then they almost never have to go to the main website again, unless they're really looking for something more fully featured. But the greatest thing about that is that when you actually dial, and I'm going to turn my phone off of Do Not Disturb so it doesn't just go to voicemail. But when I dial this, and I just have to click the link for my phone number, I'm still on IF3. I'm not navigated away. I don't have to open up a new tab. I don't have to go somewhere else. I'm looking at the information that is most important for me to communicate with that seller and have a good conversation. And that's one of the key things, and some a kind of point that we're taking towards the dialer that we'll talk about later. But, you know, in this day and age, some people are saying you got to power dial everybody that you know. And I've kind of looked at the data of that. I've looked at the results of that. And what can happen is, if you don't have the context to have a good conversation, you're going to lose that lead, because you pick up the phone connects and you're kind of like scramble, trying to find the information, trying to understand where you are in that process. And you can kind of come off sounding not intelligent, especially if you've spoken to that lead before. So the click to call functionality lets you go from one to the next and using our action system, go through and make sure that you are having the right conversations. And I can be on the phone with this person. I can open those notes. I can access the information. I can interact with IF3 while being on that phone call. And then when I'm done with the phone call, I just hang up, or maybe the seller hangs up. And SmartPhone has this amazing dispositions functionality in it, which is available on their desktop and their mobile app, and then here. But so I can type in a note here, had a great convo, maybe 5K in repairs, and then I can say what happened. So we've integrated so much so that this information all comes flooding in, and you not only can see, when the call happened, and we've got outbound. If it's inbound, it's green, so you have a really clear definition of like what calls are happening. Same thing with texts. You got a recording link here. Let me refresh the page, and what you'll see is that information that I just put in came in as me. So, and this is where, like, if I'm on the phone, like I'm away from my desk, I'm on my phone making these calls with SmartPhone, and I put in a note in a dispositions, that comes in as a comment from me into InvestorFuse. I don't have to, it doesn't like come in as a separate piece of information. I don't have to figure out what happened. It's me. It logs as me. And that's because inside of InvestorFuse, in the users and teams, we have the ability to assign smartphone numbers to certain users inside of the opportunity. Hang on, let me reload all of this. There we go. And I love that because, this was actually a feature that came through from the beta group. So originally, these comments used to be underneath this communication log. And then some of the users that we had in the beta group were like, wouldn't it be great if the comment came in as the user so that we know who actually wrote that inside a smartphone, who was the person actually connected with that? So that's what we built. And so that's the cool part, right? So everything tracks in the communication log. Use smartphone as a Chrome extension in the web browser on your mobile phone. And it's all going to log inside of IF3. Now, beyond that, we asked the smartphone team, and again, this is why like being able to do deep integration is incredible. I was like, hey, can you like maybe send us some more information on those records so that we can provide some contextual information to our users? So for example, inbound calls, outbound calls, calls greater than a minute, calls greater than 5 minutes total talk time. This data is coming in from smartphone, and then we're saying, okay, this phone number is associated with this opportunity. So when you open this opportunity, we're going to give you a mini dashboard of just calling data. And so let's say your outbound calls are like 10, and then you have no calls greater than a minute, and your total talk time is like 3 minutes. Well, that means that you got voicemail every single time or got hung up on. But if you can open this up and see that you're having meaningful conversations, multiple calls over a minute, multiple calls over 5 minutes, a total talk time of 30 minutes, you know that you're connecting with a seller and having good conversations. And this works great for a manager to be able to look into what opportunities people are doing. And so you can see that call data at that level, but we want to take it a step further. And everything I'm showing you right here is for our pro and premium users. But there's this little icon up here, and if you click on this, it opens a user's mini dashboard. So it shows you data for today. What am I doing today in my job, and how am I connecting with the opportunities and actions that I have inside of InvestorFuse? So I can see things like actions completed, ops touched, but then we've got your smartphone data, right? So how many inbound calls, outbound calls, number of calls more than 1 minute, number of calls more than 4 minutes, total talk time, and then you can see offers made, contracts sent, and deals signed. So it's a really great mini dashboard for that user to understand, am I hitting the metrics that are assigned to me? And, we're working towards bringing in goals to this. So you'll be able to say somebody should be hitting this goal, and they'll see it in a speedometer about how far away they are from their goal. But for now, it's just the data, but we're getting there with goals. And so it's really exciting to bring this level of data in because, Jordan was talking about it earlier, right? Like there's sometimes so much disconnect between the tools. Like you've got this one over here doing this thing, you got this thing here, and then this thing over here. To bring all that data together and provide a comprehensive view of what is your acquisition strategy, your communication strategy with sellers, and is it giving you the returns? Are your employees performing at the level that you want? is super important. And now you're going to be able to do that. And this data inside of InvestorFuse is only populated by smartphone because they are the only provider that's willing to work with us and build a deep integration. We've tried with CallRail, but you reach an answering system. I feel like it's a giant corporation. But smartphone's like, yes, let's do it. And that's incredible. And that's the kind of relationship that we want from our integration partners. And we've taken the data a step further. So inside of the employee scorecard, which is only for premium users, we've added in all this data as well. Okay, so inbound calls, outbound calls more than 1 minute. And what we're going to be doing is we're adding multiple views to this. We're working on this next week. So you'll be able to see on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, what is somebody's track record. So right now, all of this data points are in separate tables. Imagine seeing a list of users on the left and then the KPIs on the top as columns. And so you'll be able to see, okay, so John's doing, having a total talk time of 3 hours per day. Carlos is having 2 hours per day. Why is Carlos only 2 hours per day? Why is he not at the same level John is? And you can immediately get those insights and have those conversations with your employees about, hey, let's increase your talk time. Let's increase your meaningful conversations. Why are you having 3 hours of talk time, but you're only having 2 conversations more than 5 minutes? It's really going to give you a level of insight into your opportunities that you've never really seen before. And so that's the kind of the integration. I didn't talk about texting, but that's in there too. So let me go back to my opportunity here. Not only can you click on the phone number, but you can click on the text. So I just click on the text and it'll bring up a composed message. And so this gives you the ability to have multiple users inside a smartphone, assign them their own phone number, and for them to be inside of InvestorFuse calling and texting from their own phone number. Now, I'm going to assume a question is going to be, well, what happens if somebody comes down here into the activity communication log and sends a text message? That's not integrated yet, but we're working towards that. So that's the next level, that deeper integration is being able to really associate the IF3 users to the smartphone users and then making sure that we know which phone number to text from. So it's a little bit more complex on the setting side, but we're working there. That's one of our future goals, is to do that functionality. But you have that ability now today to just hit send text and to send a text message using that smartphone number that user has access to. So super cool functionality. And I mean, that's something people have been asking for a long time, is how can my users send messages from their own text messages? All right. Do we have any questions that relate to, okay. I don't have that same number. Okay. Okay, David, I'm going to answer this live. I'm not sure if that pops up for everybody, but I'm just going to reread the question too. Can you have the smartphone linked into InvestorFuse and still have that same number be able to work on the Android app also, so you don't have to have that IF3 open? Yes. So I kind of went over that before, right? So what you'll do is you'll sign up for a smartphone, and you can do that at investorfuse.com/smartphone, no A in smart. And when you sign up, you will be able to add users, purchase phone numbers, and then you can associate phone numbers to users. And then basically what will happen is those users get an invite, they accept it, they log in, they install the Chrome extension, they install the app on their phone. And then whatever phone numbers that they've been assigned to or given access to, and correct me if I'm wrong in anything that I just said there, Jordan, that they will then be able to, the same phone number that they're hitting the call from on the desktop application here, they can then use the smartphone app on their mobile phone and call from as well.
Can I add a little thing to that?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that we have in the Pro plan as well on smartphone is geo caller ID management per user.
Oh yeah, you told me about this. So cool.
Yeah. So one of the things that if you're working in multiple markets, of course one of the fundamental good sales technique is call from a local number, right? That's what we all want to do. But if you've got a company that's working in multiple markets across multiple area codes, you're then having to have your agents sort of manually swap. Well, I'm going to call from this number. Now I'm going to call from this number, and it's a nightmare. And I always used to forget how to do it, and it was terrible. So we created geo caller ID management, which means you can actually set rules of the caller IDs per user. And funny enough, you can do it at the country level, or down to the area code level. And what you can do is make sure that, if John is going to work in these three markets, when John dials a 914 number, he's going to use this number. When John dials a 203 number, he's going to use this number. When John dials a 336 number, he's going to use this one. And if he dials anything else, he's going to use this one. And then John doesn't have to think about it. Whether it's from the mobile phone, the Chrome extension, or the desk, or inside a smartphone, it doesn't matter. The system will look first. Do I have a rule? Can I associate? Oh, yes. Boom. I'm doing it automatically. You don't have to think. So you can swap from calling a 203 number to a 914 number to a 336. You don't have to do anything. The system routes accordingly.
Love
Amazing. I get asked that multiple times a week about being able to call a seller. Because I understand negotiating with sellers is hard enough if you're able to call them from a local area code versus a random one. That definitely helps with building rapport for sure. So that's amazing. I didn't even know that was.
That works in Smart Dialer too, I should say, guys. So
really?
A new function in Smart Dialer, because of course, one of the things we used to find is that people would be uploading these lists and they'd be across multiple markets. And so what we've done is we've created a functionality where when you set up a Smart Dialer campaign, you can select from as many of your caller IDs as you have in the system. And you just click to, if you want GeoCaller ID to work. And what smartphone's going to do is it's going to first check, do I have an area code match? And if I do, it's going to cycle through those numbers. So say you're calling multiple 336s, multiple 914s, multiple 203s, it's going to cycle through your 914s as you go through the 914 numbers you're calling, cycle through the 203s, and all of that goes to making sure that your phone numbers are not hammering away at the carriers and you're avoiding as much as possible spam ratings, right? So Smart Dialer is actually smart enough to cycle through area codes to be using, if you've got 5 914 numbers, every time you hit a 914 number, it's going to cycle through it and not just use the same one.
That's incredible. And I think the key thing to take away from that is like the person doing the dialing doesn't have to know any of that. Set it up before. They didn't even know it exists. It just happens. And then it just works.
100%.
Incredible. All right, we got a couple of other questions here to hit. Warren, Joseph, James, all saw your questions as well as anonymous attendee. So we'll get to them all. We're going to kind of hit them in order. I don't know who this anonymous attendee is, but they asked, will the same features work with transactions since it's in beta? Yes, transactions is in beta. Just came out yesterday. Don't tell anybody. But yes, it will. Transactions is really just kind of an extra tab on an opportunity, and it moves to a certain area that's just permission control, but the same smartphone functionality will work for transactions, which is super cool. All right. So James asked, I'm going to read the question, and I think I know the answer, and then Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong. So if a seller calls or texts back from any existing lead, how would we be assured that only specific agents are the only agents users receiving that phone call on their app or desktop? So, I mean, smartphone has some incredible call flows, and that's what you do. So on a phone number, you set up call flows. You say if somebody's receiving a text to this phone number, somebody's receiving a call to this number, it needs to route to this specific user. If they don't pick up, it can go to voicemail. It could go to another user. The same fancy call flows that you're used to in other VoIP solutions are all fully built into smartphone. So if I am the user here, my smartphone number has in that smartphone number, I have the call flow for everything to come back to me, to come to my SMS inbox inside of smartphone, to come to my voicemail inside of smartphone. If I click to call that phone number and that seller was to call or text back, it would only end up back at me. Am I right, Jordan?
Yeah. So essentially, the call flow gives you pretty much unlimited options on how you determine, on how an inbound call or text message is dealt with on any given number. That means you can choose to send it, an inbound call to a group. That means that you can choose to, and that group, you can either have it ring, one after another, or simultaneously ring everybody in the group, and whoever picks it up gets it. It means that you can do round robins around, if you've got a sales group and you want an even distribution across your team on inbound leads. Say you've got one number that's cold leads and inbound phone cold leads. You can round robin those. And you can build up quite complex flows around that to make sure that your an inbound call goes to the right person, either at a group level, or you can build up individual flows as well. What I see most common is there'll be certain marketing numbers that are group based, and then once a relationship is established with an agent, they'll swap to the phone number that is their smartphone number. And that means they're only seeing like texts and calls go into them and don't go to a generic group inbox and smartphone.
Yep. Love it. All right, Warren, you've asked the same question twice. Is that because you really want to be answered? All right, Warren, how do we get these numbers from getting flagged as spam with the major cell phone providers, and how can we measure if users? I guess they're two separate questions. How can we measure if users' numbers is at risk for spam? I'll give you my opinion just from what I know, and then Jordan has a lot more insight to this. He has been working with this problem for 5 years, but from my opinion, and Brandon, I'm sure many of you know from our webinars and our podcast, has been using smartphone for 4+ years. And it really comes down to how do you call is a big part of it. If you are calling people that are prospects that are that you haven't had a conversation with, that haven't raised their hand and said yes from a phone number that you are talking to motivated sellers with, well, those prospects might potentially mark you as spam, which then ruins that phone number for all of those people that you're having those conversations with. So what Brandon does is he has his acquisitions managers that are talking to the motivated sellers have one phone number, and they're clicking to dial. They're not power dialing them. And they're having meaningful conversations. They're all sellers that have raised their hands and said, yes, I'm interested. Yes, I know who you are. And works really hard to establish his presence on the phone. And he registers every single one of those phone numbers. And through that process, he's reduced the amount of times he's having to cycle through phone numbers. And in fact, I think he mentioned on our podcast last week, he doesn't even have to anymore. Now, the power dialing and the dialer aspect is a little bit of a different situation, because you can use that for motivated people or you can use it for not motivated people. But I'll let Jordan kind of flow in there and talk about what they do for the phone numbers and how you can best protect yourself.
Yeah. So there are definitely the transactional element of calling causes the least amount of problem, right? If you are calling people you've got a relationship with on a one-to-one basis, then that is the lowest risk you have. The moment you start adding volume and speed is when you start to open up to risks of spam ratings, etc. So there's a couple things involved with this, and I'm going to do the 5-minute version or the 4-minute version of this. We can do the 4-hour version sometime.
Right, yeah, you can teach a masterclass on this.
Yeah, but plus we've got lots of documentation inside a smartphone that is constantly updated by our amazing team to make sure you guys have the best information around these things. So I'm going to point you there as well. But the short end of the stick is that everything is about two kind of elements. One is around trust. And that is, you guys may have heard about A2P 10DLC, or you may have heard of something called stir shaken, right? And essentially what happens is this is the carriers, the brief version is the carriers in the US have all banded together badly to try and come up with some way of dealing with spam and bringing text message out from the Wild West and into some element of control. On voice, it's called stir shaken. On text messaging, it's called A2P 10 DLC, which is application to person 10-digit long code. Anyway, what it means is that part of smartphone allows you to register your company inside a smartphone where it gets verified by a third party and goes to our carrier Twilio. And that means that then you can, when you register for an A2P text messaging campaign, which we can cover in another webinar and you can read about in our documentation, It means that you are verifying, this is who I am, this is why I'm doing this. And it allows at the voice and text message level a verification process to happen between us and our carrier and the end carrier. So that's step one. And that is vital for you guys to do, to register inside the Trust Center and to get those things active. You can do that all inside a smartphone. The second bit about this is just about what kind of behavior they're looking at flagging. So if you buy a really shitty list and you don't scrub it or cleanse it, don't DNC scrub it or any of that, and you start pounding away with 4 lines with one phone number, you're going to probably get a lot of dropped calls, which is a negative score, and you're going to probably hit carriers really fast, which is another negative score. And that's why we've built in functionality like being able to stack up call IDs and cycle through them. And everything is about slowing down the one single number hitting a carrier too fast and hitting too many dropped calls in a row. The sad part of this conversation, and then I'm going to stop it because it could go on for 4 hours, is that there is not there is no 100% way you can say I will not be spam rated now, because every carrier has its own algorithms, and they can vary from minute to minute. I have actually personally made test calls to a functional mobile where I was marked as spam likely on one call, and 5 minutes later, using the same phone number and the same everything, I wasn't. Right. And so what all you can do is best behavior. And that may, and that's true of texting, and that is true of phoning, which is making sure you scrub and cleanse your lists, that you deal with your caller IDs effectively, and that you are making sure that the data you're trying to do in volume is as clean as it can be to avoid drop calls.
Yep. Joseph just asked, you have to register for 10 DLC just to send one text at a time through existing leads, or just for bulk text?
One text. So the texting landscape in the US is completely changing. It's been changing for a year. Essentially, anybody using any sort of system online, us, CallRail, one of the other, whatever, and texting people will have to register and go through the A2P 10 DLC process. If you do not, you will first suffer penalties in terms of increased costs per text and fines for not like $10,000 fines, but like fines as in an extra fine because you're sending text. But the carriers have indicated that at some point they will start blocking traffic from unverified and from numbers that are not within an A2P 10 DLC campaign. So you got to know that over a period of time, if you're not registered, sooner or later you ain't texting.
And behavior, I mean, yes, there's rules to abide by and software to use that can help, and software that's aware of the problems and going to guide you through it. But really, it comes down to behavior and how you text, how you call, the things that you say. Are you communicating with people that have raised their hand and said, I'm interested in talking to you? And then are you treating them the right way? If you have the right behavior and then you just follow the guidelines, I honestly believe you'll be fine. They're not coming after the people that are doing that.
Joseph had a question earlier, more IF3 functionality, a little bit up in the chat.
Yes. I was saving that one on purpose for the future.
Okay. Wasn't sure.
So let me, I haven't forgotten your question up there, Joseph. We'll come back to it here in a minute, since we are about 10 minutes away from wrapping up. But how does the cost for smartphone compare to CallRail for IF3 premium users? Would you like to answer that one, Jordan? How do you compare to CallRail?
It really depends on the situation. Quite honestly, no, we've actually got I've got a video on the documentation that talks a bit about it, because one of the fundamental things about smartphone pricing is that we put it all out there clear and transparent, and we show you the cost of everything. And one of the things I've always hated is systems that are like, yeah, it's going to cost this, and then suddenly, and we got 800 minutes included, and then after those 800 minutes, the call cost per minute suddenly goes to 6 cents per minute. And if you're doing 8,000 minutes, 10,000 minutes a month, boom, it blows up. So I would say, that smartphone, the costs across pretty much all our competitors are, it depends on volume. I would say we always are in a strong competitive nature with them all. But the key thing about smartphone is that we're completely transparent with everything. Everything is there. You can look at every call and see exactly how much that cost you. You can look at, everything's there, everything's laid out, and because we use a prepaid system, because essentially you add credit inside a smartphone and then you use it. It means you can never have one of those surprise bills.
Yeah, here's a giant bill. I've seen some giant call rail bills.
One of the reasons we built smartphone is I had built a semi integration with AirCall in Podio back before smartphone, and I got like one of these surprise bills where I was like, I was expecting a bill of $150 and I got a bill of $700, and I'm like, what? And, and that kind of was one of the impetuses.
Yep. Warren asked, we were thinking of hiring a cold caller, so the power dial would be able to handle that. Should we purchase a different line for them to dial from? What you suggest? Yes. Smart Dialer can totally be a cold caller. I know a lot of people, real estate investors that are using Smart Dialer for that, and it works great. And then, yes, they should have a separate phone number to dial from. Do not dial your power dial your using your acquisition agent's phone number, especially for cold calling.
And think about having a group of numbers. If you're doing a lot of dialing,
yes,
you may want to think about having a group of numbers to cycle through to mitigate the spam elements of it. It just depends on how hard you're having them hit those cold calls. If they're hitting really hard all the time, you're going to really want to think about groups of numbers so that you're cycling through them.
Love it. All right. Well, I would like to just kind of give some people some places to go get some information. And then I want to talk about the future here. Like we talked about, I said mile one, Jordan said, this is the new start line. Either way, we are continuing to develop this, and there's some exciting things in the future. But if you're interested in signing up for smartphone, go to investorfuse.com/smartphone, no A in smart. The link is in the description there. I believe that takes you to a trial to try smartphone out. And then how can we talked a lot about 10 DLC and stuff. How can they find information out, Jordan, for getting questions answered about smartphone?
So docs, if you're inside of a smartphone, or in fact, I believe if you go to our website as well, now that on our website, smrtphone.io, in the top right-hand corner, there's a support. If you hang over there, there's documentation there. So we've got a very comprehensive documentation set up here that pretty much has everything you could ever want from anything in smartphone. We've got whole sections on A2P 10DLC. We've got sections on every security and compliance there. You can see you've got pretty much everything you could ever want to know in here. Plus, smartphone does provide, just so everybody knows, we've actually got an incredible support and success team. The support team is available 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Friday. Live chats. We usually, the average wait time to access a support agent is about 2 minutes, right? So there's none of this call rail. Let's wait a week for it, and so we've got live support Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. We do have some people looking over the weekend, although that's a bit slower. Obviously, we don't provide guaranteed times for support on that. And of course, this documentation setup is huge. We've also got a Facebook group where users talk to each other and talk to our team as well.
This is one of the another reasons why I was incredibly excited to work with Smartphone or Jordan is the level of effort that InvestorFuse has put into our knowledge base, our support staff, our response time is the exact same mentality that they have for their customers. They want to support you. They're not just leaving you to the wolves. Incredible documentation, incredible team. work with. I've used their support chat. I don't know if they knew it was me, but I was chatting in, and they're great. So I highly recommend going there. And if you look in the chat of the webinar, Ellen, who works with smartphone, she put a link if you are interested in getting any more questions that are kind of very smartphone specific. And there's a link there to set up a introductory Zoom call with the client success team. Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about the future a little bit. So a little while ago, Joseph asked a question that Warren has asked for a long time, not in this chat, but Warren was in the beta group. But Joseph asked, can I power dial through actions or opportunities inside of InvestorFuse? So this has long been something that people have wanted, asked for. There are other softwares out there that do similar functionality. And honestly, I had always been apprehensive for it. And you kind of heard me talk about it here. It has to do with behavior, right? I have seen people with a giant CRM download their lists, stick them in a dialer, and burn through their leads because their behavior of approaching those leads and trying to call them all wasn't great. And their phone numbers got marked as spam. Conversations, relationships they had built no longer worked. But that being said, with working with Jordan and his team, we've been able to really think about how do we make this work the right way? How do we make it so that you can use a power dialing aspect the right way for your active opportunities? So we have built an API. Armin, our lead developer, finished it up last week. And what it will do is it will give the smartphone team the ability for you to choose a user inside of InvestorFuse. And then after picking that user, it will bring in all of their overdue and due-to-day actions into the dialer. We're still working through it. There's a lot of things that we've got to figure out and test. But we are working towards that goal of being able to dial your actions as where we're starting, just your overdue and your due-to-day actions, put it through, bring over information from InvestorFuse, property, notes, if it has an offer, what's the offer kind of deal, so that you have some contextual information inside the dialer to be able to do that functionality. And then we'll work on making sure that information comes back. The interesting part is figuring out, okay, well, this is a follow-up with seller action over here. You dial them inside of Smart Dialer. Now, what does that do to the action back inside of InvestorFuse? So that's what we have to kind of work towards, is figuring out that level. But this is the team to do it. Their development team is phenomenal. And we're working towards that goal of being able to have a great solution to dial through your actions and your opportunities, so you can speed up a little bit more than just click to call, even though click to call is still pretty fast with smartphone. So don't feel like you're missing out on too much. But yeah, we are excited to work towards that integration with them.
I just quickly, I know we're ending up, but to follow up on your, John, on your Smart Dialer, because I'm super excited about that API and to get that working in. The other part of the Smart Dialer integration with InvestorFuse, though, if you've not seen it and you're on this webinar, is that, of course, you can, if you've got Smart Dialer inside a Smart Dialer inside a smartphone, you can upload an Excel list directly to smartphone, and then essentially, while your agents are calling, they've got the option to convert and push to InvestorFuse. So that's already live, that's working. So, you can load up a big list, get your agents calling, and they're able to then do that in smartphone, keep InvestorFuse perfectly clean. And whenever they got someone good, they can push it to InvestorFuse, and it drops out of the Smart Dialer list and it goes into InvestorFuse to be picked up inside of the lead management system there.
Absolutely. That does work. Tested it myself. And we've had some customers use it as well. So works great. But awesome. I think that's it for the whole integration and the news. And we're incredibly excited to have this live for anybody to use it. Working with our beta group, we had about 20 to 30 customers in there. They were incredibly helpful in providing feedback of how this would be better. And like you saw earlier, one of those things was we had it so that if somebody left a comment or note inside of smartphone, it actually was a comment as that user inside of InvestorFuse. That's the kind of feedback we need, and we listen to it. And as does Jordan and his team. If you have feedback about the smartphone platform, let us know what you would like to see, what you would like to see improved. And it certainly goes through a little bit of a filter of a vision for our products and how we want them to work within the world. But we definitely tailor and make sure that we are building a solution for our customers. How many tracking numbers can you have? Last question there from Joseph. Is there a limit to tracking numbers? Or you just typed it as many as you want?
Smartphone Pro does come with 5 included numbers. So 5 numbers are included in the cost of the monthly or annual subscription to Smartphone Pro. But essentially, I mean, we've got some customers who've got 180, 200 tracking numbers. And then cost of a number does scale with volume, right? So if you're a company that wants to do a lot of tracking numbers, you just simply reach out to support and let us know, and we can adjust depending on your volume that you're going to do.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jordan, for coming. Thank you, Carlos, for coming and giving some insight into what our current customers are doing. And super excited for this, and looking forward to continuing building a really cool integration.
Thanks very much, guys.
Awesome. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, guys.